All right, I think we are live.
Right on.
Welcome back to Mitten Athletics Live. We are here today with another guest, Tyler Germain out of Kalamazoo Central. Real quick, we are brought to you by Mitten Athletic Supply, your one-stop shop for all of your gill, track and field, and other athletics needs. Don't know a lot about the other stuff, but we're here for your track and field needs. So please contact us, email us. We're here to help. All right. I'll go over to Tyler. Why don't you give us just a quick 5-minute synopsis of your background, history, track and field, blah, blah, blah. Give us a little bit who you are.
Yeah. Start the clock.
Start the clock.
So I guess I'll start at the beginning. That makes the most sense, right? So I was not a kid who, grew up doing track like most people aren't, right? Unless you have a really strong youth club in your area or something like that. I didn't do track in middle school. I didn't go out for the track team as a freshman in high school. And then, I had a couple teachers who approached me, who were the track coaches at my high school when I was a sophomore, and invited me to come out for the team. And, I was a football player and a basketball player, and I was a tall, lanky, reasonably athletic kid. And I now know that those tall, lanky, reasonably athletic kids who already play two sports are no-brainer.
You see those kids and we're like, ooh.
That's a no-brainer kid to try and convince to come out for track, right? So
Yep.
They convinced me, and it was a little bit of a bait and switch. They're like, oh, do the high jump, do the long jump. I'm like, all right, sounds pretty good. And then we got off the bus at our first dual meet, and Germain, you're running the 300 hurdles. So I had never run the 300 hurdles before. I don't remember if I had gone over a hurdle in practice or not, or if I just got thrown in. But I do know that I ate.
Have you done any hurdle mobility or anything?
Yeah, nothing. I don't. Who knows? But I did eat 2 roast beef sandwiches on the bus ride down, because I thought I was just going to high jump and long jump. So I think you can probably surmise how that story ends. But anyway, I became a hurdler, and I must not have sucked too bad at it because they let me keep doing it. And
Awesome.
so I ended up being a hurdler. And then the year after I graduated, I was invited back to help out and coach the hurdlers because I was going to school locally, and the assistant coach who had been coaching me had moved on, not like from this earth, just to a different place. So they invited me back, and I was coaching kids that I had been teammates with the year before. But, I stuck around the rest of the time I was in college. And then from there, I've really never looked back. Everywhere I've ever been as a teacher, because I'm a high school teacher as well, everywhere I've ever been, the first thing I've done is gone and found out who's the track coach here, and just kind of tell them, my background and offer to help in any way I can. And sometimes that's been as a volunteer. Sometimes it's been, hey, we actually are looking for somebody. I've been an assistant. I've been a volunteer. I've been a girls head coach. I've been a boys head coach. And now I'm the head coach for both boys and girls at Kalamazoo Central. And this is going to be my 21st year coaching track and field.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome.
Where'd you start? Where'd you graduate from?
Yeah, the high school that I attended was Bay City Western High School, which is over here. I can't tell what way it's going to show up on the screen. It's over here.
We get it. So that's like the area generally people on this side of the state know Ann Arbor and Detroit. And I always overestimate how far north Detroit is. But like everything else along Lake Huron, like it's a black box. I've heard all these names. I don't know where it is.
Saginaw's 10 minutes away. So,
Okay.
But anyway, so that's where I graduated from in 2004, and then I started coaching there the following year. And I was there for the whole time I was in college, and then through my student teaching, and then I graduated from college in December, like in a December graduation. And so I was still in the area. I took a long-term sub job at a nearby district, and I kept coaching there. So I think it was all in. I think I was there for like 6 years.
Nice.
And then my first big boy teaching job was at Benton Harbor High School, and I was there for a year. And at that time, my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, she was in grad school at the University of Illinois. So I was trying to get closer to her. And so I found a job in Central Illinois at a little high school called Monticello High School, which is 25 minutes west of Champaign-Urbana, where the U of I is. We had about 500 kids there at that high school. I was there for 4 years, some of those as an assistant, one of those as the girls' head coach. And then when my wife finished up her degree, we moved back to Michigan. We bought a house in Grand Rapids, and I taught and coached at Coopersville High School for 2 years.
Oh, really?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I don't talk about it a lot.
Is there a reason for that?
There's a reason I'm in Kalamazoo. And it's not actually anything to do with the people that I coached with at all. I mean, I literally today talked with the two coaches that I worked with up there because, they had some questions they wanted to run past me about their sprint stuff. So it was just not the right fit for me. The school district, the community wasn't right for me. So I found this job in Kalamazoo in I guess that would have been the 2017-2018 school year. And, I started out here as an assistant, and then, COVID hit. And when things got back up and running, our previous head coach, who was, he's a little older guy, and I think his wife was having some health problems at the time, and he wasn't trying to risk it. So he stepped down like a week before the season started in 2021. So I got that job. And I got the head coaching job in 2021 at Kalamazoo Central, like a week before the season started. And that was a crazy year, but I've just been trying to build it up ever since and put KC back on the map a little bit in track and field, because it's been a long time since our track programs have had any kind of sustained success.
Yeah,
that's
the
awesome.
Sustained part is that's the tricky one, right?
That's the hard part. Yeah.
So yeah, the few as you're going through that, I got a few questions. So obviously the teaching and coaching thing always kinds of finds itself together, right? And everybody knows the jokes about like, oh, there's the football coach teaching social studies or whatever.
Yeah.
And there's stigmas about stuff like that. But did you know? So I'm assuming you went to school for teaching right off the bat.
I did, yeah.
Did you know that you wanted to pair that with coaching, or did that surprise you?
No, I knew that I did want to coach. I think by the time I started in college, I pretty much knew that I wanted to coach. Of course, at the time when I was, young and full of vim and vigor, I thought, I'm going to coach 3 sports. I'm going to coach football, basketball, and track. I'm going to be, and like, yeah, right. But I knew I wanted to do that. But, I know the stereotypes that you're talking about for sure. And I've always prided myself in really trying to be the best teacher that I can be too. Yeah. And, I'm sure some kids would agree that I do a good job, and some would probably not everybody likes me. I know
you're not going to please everybody.
Yeah.
I know it.
But I'm really fortunate. I teach honors level and AP classes in our building. And my kids do pretty well on the AP exam that they take. And then then they go run real fast on the track too. Yeah. So it's pretty cool.
I teach trades,
awesome.
So there's another reason we're enemies here. Enemies. Yeah, I think that becoming a teacher has only made me a better coach, and putting the two together. Like it makes it like logistically so much easier. I was an engineer for the first half of the time I was at Byron Center. And so logistically, obviously, it's way easier. But just like relationships wise, like I think the whole thing for me is tied together. I want to be as good as possible at both of them.
For sure.
And yeah, I think it's all one big pot.
And I think it goes the other way too. Like, I think being a coach has made me a better teacher as well. Right. Like, I think that it's a reciprocal sort of relationship. But to your point about, building relationships with kids and building a program, like if you're not in the building that you coach at,
it's tough.
That's so hard to do. And I think that's honestly one of the problems that our program faced prior to me being the head coach, is that the entire rest of the coaching staff was they were all retirees, and great guys, love them, and two of them still coach with me, but they weren't in the building every day, and you got to have boots on the ground, so to speak, to get out there, to be in the hallways, to talk to kids during lunch in the cafeteria, to ask the gym teachers, who's like dunking in gym class, and like all that kind of stuff, which you don't have the opportunity to do if you're not in the building. And since 2021, when I took over, we now have myself, my pole vault coach, my hurdle coach, an assistant sprint coach, one of my throws coaches, and one of our volunteer jumps coaches, and one of our volunteer distance coaches. So 7 out of our 10 coaches are teachers or staff members in our building.
In the building. So not just in the district, but in the building.
In the building.
That's
awesome.
That's a cheat code.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and some of those are new additions this year. And like I said, some of them are on a volunteer basis where it's kind of like when they can sort of thing. But anybody who's got even part of a foot in the door of the program, so to speak, and has like a vested interest, and they're in the building, like they're going to help us as far as like recruiting is going, and those kinds of things. And we just try to bring really good people into our program. Even like, and Johnny you've met Johnny before. Johnny would say this too. Like one of my assistant sprint coaches who I brought in last year, like he's a campus safety officer in our building, and he's like the most positive, outgoing, enthusiastic dude in the hallway, and kids just freaking love him. And I was like, would you want to coach track? And he's like, well, I mean, I ran track in high school, but I don't know a lot about it. And I was like, I don't care. Like, you can be my right-hand guy. You can learn, like keep learning and keep like accumulating knowledge and expertise over the years. But you are so positive and so encouraging to kids, and kids freaking love you.
That's funny.
I want you around our program, and we'll figure the track stuff out.
Our resource officer is also like a positive, cheerful, happy looking dude. That's funny how that. Yeah.
I think you have to be to be a sheriff, and also like effective in a high school. Yeah.
Yeah.
And to be clear, he's not a sheriff. That's just like what we call our building.
Sure. Yeah.
People as campus safety.
We have a contract with blah blah blah. That's boring.
Anyway,
coaching at a big school versus small school. So you guys you're D1. What's your enrollment at KC?
We're usually hover right around 1,700.
Okay.
Okay.
So what do you guys have there? We're at like 13 or 14, depending on the year.
Yep.
But still, like that's an extra 400 kids potentially. You're closer. Maybe you're closer to EK than us. I don't know.
I mean, EK is like 3,000.
Okay, so no, you're
29.
You're closer to them. Never mind. I thought they were 2 something. But yeah. So what's it like? What is it like coaching a 500 kids school versus a 1,700 kids school?
Well, I think that there are like just a gazillion differences between the specific 500 student school I coached at and the specific 1,700 student school I coach at now. But I mean, obviously the talent pool is just bigger, right? To start with, like it's a numbers game. And speaking of EK, like Dave Amiat told me one time, he said, if you get 10 kids out for track one of them will be good. And if you get 100 kids out for track, one of them would be great. And you can win a whole lot of stuff with 9 good kids and 1 great kid. And that's totally true. So when you're, when your pile of kids gets bigger, it's definitely, an advantage, but you still got to get the right kids out. In the school I coached in Illinois, I would venture to guess that like 75% of the students enrolled there did some sport, which is a huge percentage.
It is.
Yeah.
That's big.
But it's in that small community, like there wasn't a lot else like going on. It was a small farm community, and there was a high academic achieving school, and the kids were all involved in extracurriculars, and you pretty much knew like it was pretty rare to like convince a kid to try track for the first time. Like if they did track in middle school, they're probably doing track in high school. If they played soccer in middle school, they're probably playing soccer in high school. If they played softball, so there wasn't as much of that where like I'm out in our hallways constantly. I just had a kid who came into my room today. He said, "Hey, I'm switching into your class for 3rd trimester. I'll be starting on Monday," because we're on a trimester schedule and it was exams this week. I said, "Oh, that's great. Do you want to join the track team too?" This kid walked in and he's like a 6'4", like big white Dutch kid, and I'm like, "You look like a 400 runner and a high jumper." So I'm constantly doing that here, but like there, we pretty much always knew like, all right, these are the track kids.
This is what you got.
These,
do what you can.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's probably the biggest difference. And then just, there are obviously other differences going from like that sort of small, tight knit, like rural community with like tons of parental involvement to where I'm at now, where, sometimes we have kids where, mom, whoever, parents can't make it to the track meet to watch them, so there's a lot of different challenges there too, access to resources and equipment, and even like having the right shoes and things like that. But that's less about size of school and more about just like the community.
Yeah. But when you can be that place for that kid, that feels good.
Feels really good. I just I was out walking my dog yesterday, and I'm just I'm in my neighborhood, and this car pulls up and the window rolls down. "Hey, what's up, Coach Germain?" And I looked, and it was a kid that had graduated from our school 2 years ago. And he was one of those kids who had never done track before. He was a basketball player. He's probably 6'4", 6'5", tall, lanky, football player, basketball player. And I was watching this kid run around the basketball court just like a gazelle, just springy. And I was like, "Hey, why don't you give this a try?" And he ended up being a state finalist in the high jump and the long jump. He came out as a junior, and he was a state finalist as a senior in both the high jump and the long jump. But back to what you're saying, like it's really, it feels good when you give all I'm really feel like I'm trying to do is just open the door for a kid, to walk through it. And sometimes kids find out that they're really good at something that they had no idea that they were going to be good at.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really beautiful thing about track is that, because kids don't grow up as track athletes and they grow up as football players, basketball players, volleyball players, soccer players, like track reveals athleticism. And if you're a good athlete, you might be a really good track athlete and not even know it yet.
Right.
And that's so cool because I can remember after track, that exact kid, now I'm thinking, now all these memories are coming back. I can remember sitting with him after a track meet in our back parking lot. It was dark. He was waiting on a ride. He was the last one to get picked up. And I think it was after the regional meet where he had qualified for state finals. And I was like, "Hey man, you remember when you did track for the first time last year?" He was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Turns out this is pretty cool, huh?" And he's like, he said, I had no idea that I was gonna do this well.
Yep.
And I can't believe he said, imagine if I hadn't done this.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, imagine that. Like, but
Would have finished basketball season and been done and gone and partied or whatever.
Yeah,
right.
Truly. So, yeah. And, every coach, I think, has moments like that and stories like that they can tell. But it's always really, really cool when a kid who has never tried it before tries it for the first time and finds out, hey, this is pretty awesome. Cool feeling. Because that's what it was for me, as a high schooler. I never did it before. Hey, come try this. Oh, turns out the whole rest of my life is different now.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Aaron, ask that question then.
What?
Oh, that didn't lead in perfectly? Okay, so what's the moment where you were like, oh, I love this? Did you have a moment? Can you remember a moment where you're like, this is it. I love this.
That's actually a tough question. I don't know if I can point to a moment because like in high school, I was on the team and I liked it enough to stay with it for 3 years, but I wouldn't say that I loved track as a high schooler. I wasn't like a diehard kid. Like I don't, I know that I was, that I didn't give the best effort that I could have at practice. I know that I didn't warm up properly at meets. I threw up at every single track meet I ever competed in. Sometimes,
you know what Tony would say about that.
Yeah, not just acidic.
Just exactly.
Yeah, but but I think it was kind of one of those slow burn things where like I realized there was a point where I realized I found my people, and it was the same people who encouraged me to come out for the team, who were the same people who gave me my first opportunity to coach. And pretty soon I started to see those guys as, first they were my teachers, then they were my mentors, then they became my friends. And I still consider them my mentors and my teachers, of course, but like, and then it just felt so natural to me, when I went to Benton Harbor and I took that teaching job, it never even once crossed my mind to not go find out who the track coach was because I couldn't imagine not coaching track in the spring. So it had to be somewhere in those 6 years that I was at Bay City Western where I realized that like, this is what I need to do in the spring. And truly like the idea of not coaching track in the spring, that doesn't even make sense to me at this point in my life, So, I wish I had like a story of a specific moment I could point to, but I definitely think it was more of a slow burn.
That's good.
But it's good to hear too, though. I mean, because you hear a lot of people will say, oh yeah, there was that one meet where I hit that one big, jump or had my best time and all of a sudden I fell in love with it. But there's a lot of people too that don't have that, it's just one of those things that they just continue to fall more in love with and more in love with and more in love with. And I mean, same thing. I started my junior year and here we are. That was in 2006. And 19 years later, I'm still sitting here and been head track a part of my life every year, but 2 years in that range.
Yeah. And, I think there's also a danger, right? Of like, well, this is just what I do, and you just get into the routine. But like, I don't do things that I don't want to do.
No.
Like if there ever comes a point where I feel that way about track, I hope I'm wise enough to, step away and let somebody else take it. But like, I'm obsessed with this sport.
Right. You hope that never happens, right?
Yeah, I really do. Like they are gonna have to drag me out.
Kick you out because you can't get from the weight room to the track fast enough.
Yeah.
You hurdled.
I did.
You coach. You're the head coach, but you don't coach the hurdlers.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
Yeah, I mean, everywhere I've ever coached, I coached hurdlers, including at Kalamazoo Central, and including the first 3 years that I was the head coach. So, which was super fun because I was gifted with a super talented hurdler at Kalamazoo Central my first couple years, and I have made the joke to a few other people. I said, hey, when Kyan graduates, y'all are going to find out that I don't know anything about hurdles. Because he was just, I mean, he's by far the most talented hurdler I've ever coached. But yeah, I was a hurdles coach. I coached hurdles at Ben Harbor. I coached hurdles in Monticello. I coached hurdles in Coopersville. I coached hurdles my first several years as an assistant, my first 3 years as head coach at Kalamazoo Central. But the thing about hurdles, and I love it, and it is my passion. And even though I'm not the hurdle coach, like the 300-meter hurdles is my favorite event.
That was one of my questions, so we got to hit that one already. Cool.
I love that. But hurdlers need so much time. It's such a technical event, and you have to pay so much attention to detail that I was finding in 2023 that as our team kept growing, that I was always neglecting somebody.
Yeah.
And our staff wasn't big enough yet where, where I didn't have to do that. I mean, I would have to coach the hurdlers and then be like, all right, I want you guys to do this for a little bit, and point at my upperclassmen and be like, you guys got this. Okay, cool. I'm going to go over here, work with the sprint relays for a little bit. And somebody was always being neglected. And I do think that there's value too in being like, all right, you guys know what you're supposed to do it, but like not every day.
No,
there has to be coaching. And so
basically coaching sprints allows you to be able to head coach better.
Yeah, I think so. And also because in our program, and I think many programs, like jumpers and hurdlers are sprinters first for us, and we share a lot of the same athletes. A lot of our hurdlers have run on our 4x1s and 4x2s. A lot of our sprinters have been high jumpers and long jumpers. And so, as the head coach and as a sprint coach, it still allows me to interact with all of those kids daily, even if I'm not the one over there while they're working on hurdles, on that given day. So I hired, it took me a few years to get this guy, but a guy named Tony Thomas, who is our hurdle coach now, and he's fantastic. And he was coaching at a different school nearby, and now he's coaching with us.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So
yeah, I know what you mean.
I miss the hurdles, but the kids needed more attention than I was able to give them.
Yeah, with the technical events, it's tough. When I started, I had to learn to coach pole vault because we didn't have a pole vault coach, and those don't grow on trees. So I just had to learn it. But with that and distance, it was tough to do everything. And so when we finally found a pole vault coach, that was a game changer.
Oh yeah.
For them and for me, because now, I can, on distance workout days, I can be 100% with them. And then when it's easy run day for the distance group, I can roam around and spend time with every other group for a little bit. So,
yeah. We didn't have a pole vault coach either my first year. Our kids didn't even know what pole vault was because we had never had a kid pole vault in the time that I was at KC as an assistant either. So we went to our first meeting. Kids were like, what are they doing over there?
And those other coaches are like, yes, free however many points.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, we're never, I was like, we can't have whole events that we're just like, pass,
right.
You guys just have the points. And so, we still are not at the point where like, we just had our track coaches meeting the other night, and we were talking about goals for the season and things like that. And our pole vault coach said that our goal is to be contributors of points at the conference meet this year. Yeah. And like, we haven't had it yet, but like, truthfully, pole vault was not, and there was nothing. It was like, it was growing out of the dirt in the last 3 years. Dude. Okay. Sorry, I'm going to start telling stories. You got me all riled up on track stuff. Our first friggin' home meet, and like I told you, I took over the team a week before the season started. So our first home meet, we've got pits out because we can't not have the pole vault. And we get the standards out, and attached to the standards were on each one was a pair of vice grip pliers. And I was like, what's this about? Well, I found out that like the actual thing that's supposed to hold the thing from going up and down had broken.
Right.
Who knows when?
Like 20
sometime
years ago.
like after Nam, and and we've been holding them together with vice grip pliers for ever since. And I'm like, we can't do this. We can't. What? And then the poles that we had were like 15-foot pole, like 15 foot, like 180 pound.
Right.
Like they might as well have just been lead pipes. Like no kids were bending those. Like no wonder we didn't have any pole vaulters. We didn't have anything that they could even use. So it's really truly been like I love our pole vault coach, and I am like, I think a lot of programs would be like, well, all we have is 3 guys that can vault 10 feet. We don't have anybody who can, do anything big. And I'm like, I'm thrilled that we had 3 guys that could clear 10 feet last year, because 2 years before that, we had nobody clear a bar ever.
That's going to score in duels. That's going to score you a lot of points.
Right.
Like the EKs of the world are Forest Hill Central girls, right? We know they're going to be good. Right. We know they're going to send kids to state finals and dominate. But like, I'd be interested in what the actual average or median like team heights were in the pole vault, because it's 10 feet for boys is going to get you some stuff. Speaking of experience, like I could get some boys up to like 12.
Mm-hmm.
And then struggled for multiple years getting them past that. And that's when I knew, I was like, okay, I don't have Aaron told me it's all about video. Got to just spend all your time in video all the time and figure it out. And I was like, I don't have the time for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
it's, boy, do I know pole vault. He just fell into my lap. I'm so grateful to have him, because
it's like how it works, right?
Yep.
So you had mentioned earlier that you were trying to get KC back on the map. I think maybe it was a little foreshadowing. Did you happen to get them back on the map this previous year?
Somebody's map. I don't know. I mean, so we won a state championship. It was pretty cool. It was pretty cool.
How did your life change after that?
It didn't.
It didn't, right?
No, but I mean, it was so. When I interviewed for the position, I told our athletic director and our principal at the time, I said, I believe that we have the talent and the potential in this building where we can be competitive in our conference within 3 years and competitive at the state level within 5 years. And last year was year 4 for me. And we were fortunate to win a state championship last year. So, I mean, it was always like the goal to be competitive at that level. But if you've ever been to a state meet or watched a state meet or had kids compete there, you know that like that cookie can crumble a lot of different ways.
Yeah, anything can happen.
So, you know, we knew we had a good team going in, and we knew we were going to be able to be competitive in a lot of areas, but that was true the year before too. And we dropped the ball, or more accurately, we dropped the baton, and had some other things not go that well, you know. And like, I forget who puts out those like projections, like the week of the state finals, or somebody on social media who puts them
Michigan,
out.
MIXC.
Yeah, maybe. Or
and Jacob, what's his name? Jacob Tanner, I think.
Yeah, from Full House.
Please don't. My kids figured out that show in the past month, and I am so tired of the Full House theme song.
Anyway, you look. Anyway, the year before when those projections came out, like on paper, we were projected to win, and we ended up being 7th, which is still better than poking out of the sharp stick. But that last year, I don't think anybody expected us to win, and we didn't expect to win. Somebody did. We didn't expect to win because I think that's. I think if you go into, like, you have to be really, really freaking loaded to go into a state meet and
you're
say,
setting
we're
yourself
probably
up
gonna
for a
win,
bad
right?
day
Because so many things can happen. But we knew we'd be competitive, and we had some really, really great performances, and we were benefited from the misfortune of some other athletes, from some other schools that opened doors for us, and we walked through it. So it was big. I mean, it was the first state championship in track for Kalamazoo Central since 1965. I think the last time I talked about this at TFC, and now I don't have it in front of me, but I think the last time that we had an athlete even take a first place in an event at state finals was in like 2000. So, it'd been many, many years since we made any kind of real significant noise. But we didn't win our conference though. So, I guess we still have work to do.
Yeah.
And I'm saying all this, and I'm saying we, and I'm talking about the boys. Like the girls, when I took over both programs, I knew, like, I want both programs to be here. The boys are here, and the girls are here. So they're a few years behind, but like we're coming. So that's next, is like, all right, what do we need to keep doing to keep building this girls program to where we are really, really freaking good on both sides? Because I think we have a lot of untapped potential on our girls side as well, that we've really just started to kind of tap into in the last couple of years.
Yeah. The sustained part is just so hard. Like, we know, and like I said before, if you're expecting something, you got to be careful, because you're setting yourself up for heartbreak at that point. But I'm pretty sure, like, our team is going to be pretty good. And it was pretty good last year. I think it might be better this year. But a lot of that is because our senior class is really good, and that's school wide too. And so, like, right now, a lot of what I'm thinking about is, okay, how do we harness the success that we've had and keep it rolling with, I don't want to say weaker athletic classes, but different. Like, this senior class is so good that I think it's sucking the air out of some of the younger kids in a little way. And I don't want to, expect a huge fall off, because all these, we're graduating these giants. And I want to take that and inspire the younger kids and be like, hey, look at what we've done in the past 4 years. You're a part of that. So let's keep it going. So a lot of what I'm thinking about is taking the success and bundling it up and pushing it into the future.
Well, if you figure it out, let me know.
Yeah, I will.
It's really hard. I mean, because often, right, your top performing kids are upperclassmen. It's pretty rare that you get, especially on the boys' side, I feel like it's pretty rare that you get like a freshman who shows up and is suddenly like A1.
Testosterone does some cool things.
Huh?
Testosterone does some cool things.
Yeah, it's a hell of a drug. And so then you get these kids and they're seniors, and it's like those are the ones that are scoring the points at the big meets, and so those are the ones that are, at least for me, like those are the ones who are getting the bulk of my attention. But you have to be real careful that bulk is not all. Right. Because when they go, if you haven't done things for those juniors, sophomores, and freshmen to feel like they're part of the team, part of the program, they want to come back next year, they want to keep getting better, then you're going to be screwed real soon. And I think that, I don't know. We were 8th 2 years ago, 3 years. We were 8th 3 years ago. We were 7th 2 years ago. We were 1st last year. I feel like we have to have at least a couple more top 10s before we can really say that we have had sustained success or whatever. But like, You know, I think that at least on paper, the key is make your program strong enough that you are like pretty good all the time, so that when you get one of those special kids,
It's a game changer.
It's a game changer, right? Like
Mhm.
if your program's only good when you have a stud, then you don't really have a program, right? But if your program's pretty good all the time, like you're maybe not win the state championships every year, but like pretty good all the time, and then you get that kid again, 9 good kids and 1 great kid.
Yep.
You know, you can do a lot of stuff. So
Yeah, how many kids were on that state team last year?
that competed at state finals?
Yeah.
10 boys.
Yeah. So that's the equation right there, right?
Yeah, we happened to have two studs in Jeremy Dixon, our sprinter, who won the 100 and was second in the 200, and he just committed today to Michigan State.
Let's go.
That was pretty exciting. And then our other stud was a senior, Jasper Kane, who was a heck of a miler and 2-miler, and who is also a Spartan. So they'll be reunited as teammates next year. But you know, we had two studs who scored a lot of points for us, and then we had a good number of guys that were very, you know, deserving, obviously, of being there, and we were able to score in some relays, and you know, it was really a team effort. I mean, we had all 4 of our relays were there.
That's
awesome.
Yeah. That's awesome. Basically our goal this year. It's one of my goals this year is we got the 4x1 and 4x2 and 4x4. Now we got to fix the 4x8.
Mm-hmm.
Get them all 4 there.
Yeah, and like, knock on wood, like I think we could medal in all 4 this year.
That'd be
sweet.
relays.
I'm
You're
saying
hard, which
quietly, but yeah, I mean, we've been one of the better 4x1, 4x2 teams in the state the last few years, and I think we will continue to be very good in those 2. Our 4x8 ran really, really, really well at our regional meet and did not run well at all at state finals, but we have most of those kids back. Obviously we lost Jasper, but like our cross country team took 4th in D1 in the fall. So our 4x8 team should be pretty good this year. And I think you're going to see Kalamazoo Central with a pretty nice 4x4 this year as well, which
we'll see about that.
Well, I didn't say as good as yours, but I think we're going to be.
We'll see about that.
I think we're going to be pretty good. We're, you know, how many sub 50 kids did you guys have last year?
Only 1 sub 50.
Just 1.
But we had 5 sub 53.
Yeah.
So
that's huge. We're going to probably have 2 kids under 50 this year.
That's
making this hard for us.
I have bold. I mean, I'm every bold prediction I make comes with the caveat of if everybody stays healthy and everybody stays eligible, right? But like
Malachi,
like looking at the season, there's always, and I always teeter-totter back and forth between I don't think we're going to be any good this year, and we're going to win state. Right. It's like one extreme. It depends on the day. But like today, as you're talking to me, we're going to have two guys sub 50 and 2 more at 52, and we're going to run 320 or better in the 4x4 and stand on the podium. So we'll see. Okay, tomorrow we're not gonna place at conference.
Well, the funny part of the whole thing is you didn't need to win your conference last year and you still put it all together.
Yeah, but it still pisses me off.
Right. It should be like, I don't ever want to be one of the, like, those coaches that are like, that kind of make fun of the conference stuff. Like, they kind of piss me off. I want to get to the point where we're so good and we're contending at a high level that it becomes like automatic that conference is won, right? Yeah. And that we can use that as just a stepping stone every year. But yeah, still I would like to. Our softball team is on like I don't remember if it was like a 9 or a 13-year run winning their conference, and I'm like, I want that so bad.
Yeah.
Like, want the state title too, but again, talking about sustained success, like if you win a conference that many times in a row, that's pretty good.
You're probably going to make some deep playoff runs if you have that
Right.
kind of consistency. Now, who's other than you guys? Obviously, you guys are obviously the best team in your conference, but who's the next best team in your conference?
So this year, the OK's reorganized. The past few years, it was us and Forest Hills Central and GR Christian. Now it's us. It's us and Jenison is probably the next best. Caledonia is also now. They graduated some fast dudes last year. They're girls. So on both sides, it's going to be us, Jenison, Caledonia. And projections are projections are hard because who knows who's grown, who's coming back, who's hurt, who's coming in with a fast freshman. But yeah, do the math on paper and we're still on the top. The Muskegon schools are in there too. Muskegon and Reese Puffer and Shores.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So it's going to be a weird.
I don't know a lot about them.
It's going to be a weird conference where Jenison has some of the best distance runners in the state, but they're not complete in every event. Where we're pretty good almost everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Which if you want, you have to be.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming that Seth Connor isn't gonna quadruple on the Friday the week before regionals. That's what I'm assuming. So yeah.
Fingers crossed.
I wouldn't make him do that. I wouldn't do that, but you know.
But that right there kind of explains our sport though, and just talking about how like we're trying to win the conference, but yet, Tyler's like, we didn't win it last year. We won the state meet.
Yeah, and I wouldn't trade it.
But like you say, it only takes one thing. We got scores from last year. 41, 39 was second place, 38 was third. I mean, that's 3 points. Well, 2 points to your second place, but
was Belleville third?
Yeah.
Belleville was third.
And
Clinton.
On paper, they should have scored 50
from like just hurdles.
Yeah,
and I think we kind of talked about this a few. I don't remember if it was at TFC or what, but like I commented on Jasper, looking terrible in the 4x8, and you basically the way he shut it down because the team was out of it.
It was so far behind.
And you think about if he actually still dug it out, that changes the entire meet because if he goes and runs the best possible 4x8 leg, then scoring in both the other distances is probably not going to happen, which changes the entire meet.
Yeah, and we actually thought we felt like as bad as we were in the 4x8, and if our kids watch this or our distance coach watches this, like we've all talked about it, like we all know that like how bad we were that day, and it's stuck with all of them. They want, they don't want to let that happen again. But as bad as we were at the state meet, we thought that we had an outside chance to maybe get an 8th or a 7th going into that in the 4x8. And so actually the week leading up to state finals, there were several conversations that took place between me and Jasper and our distance coach about which events he was going to do. Because he felt like if he only ran one of the open events that he could win it. But that if he ran them both, he didn't think that he could win, that he could win the open events. And I super duper wanted him to run all three. I couldn't, it was driving me crazy that he was even talking about not wanting to run, but I think that I hid that pretty well because I genuinely allowed him to make his own choice about what events he was going to do at state finals. And I told him, He was really leaning towards just running the 32 pretty much all week. And when I talked to him the day before, I said, look, everything I've said up to this point is true, and this is still 100% your decision. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I want you to feel good about how you leave things as a senior, and go have a great day at state finals. But I want you to know that you might not think that you can be a dog in both of those open events. You might think that you only have enough to be great in one, but I don't believe that. And I said, I think that if there's anybody who can run both of them and even win them, it's you. And I left it at that. And I think it was partly, I'd like to think it was partly that, but I think it was an awful lot more the fact that the 4x8 was so bad that he was like, well, I'm not going out like that.
Oh, so even in the meet, you think it was a decision made?
I don't think he had made. I think that he was going to run the 4x8 in the 32.
Huh.
Wow.
And it was going to be a game. Like I was literally like when the 16 was getting ready, I was just waiting to see if Jasper was going to line up. And I think that if he had to, like you said, if he had to run, if he was running a hell of an anchor leg in the 4x8 to try to pick up an 8th, then he doesn't run the 16.
And there goes 8 points.
Yep. So it like we were saying before, that cookie can crumble a whole lot of different ways. And what looked like, just a god awful performance, which it was, turned out to be a blessing in disguise, because if the rest of that relay goes differently, then Jasper doesn't run the 16. He maybe he wins the 2 mile, right? But still doesn't make up for the 8 points that we don't get in the 16. And, and then we're 5th or 6th or whatever,
Only 5th or 6th in the state finals.
Yeah. Hey, look, I don't mean it like I super
No,
but like I said, the year before we thought we had a shot, and we found out that like if it doesn't go your way, just nothing you can do. So
that's the crazy part about track. So I was looking at all the college D1 conference championships indoors from last week, and there's a YouTube show, Athletics LLC, and one of the people is Kareem Street Thompson. He coaches at UTSA, and one of them had called. They had like bold predictions, and they were like, one of them was like, UTSA is going to win their conference. And I looked, wondering what the result would be, and they came in second to Tulane. And so I looked through the results. So okay, where could they have made up points? But they scored in every different category from each other.
Oh,
so
man.
like you can have the best day possible in all of your events, and it might still not matter.
Yeah. And my dog she wants to go out, so I'm gonna let her out, and then I'm gonna respond to what you just said, because I have thoughts on it.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And hopefully I can get this response in before she wants to come back inside. Yeah, you can have your best day ever and still not win, right? And that's something that we talk about a lot with our kids, is just the idea of controlling the things that you can control, because there's so many things that you can't. And you can control your effort, your attitude, what kind of teammate you are, your execution of your race in your lane. But like, if Jeremy goes and runs 10-2, but the kid next to him runs 10-1, doesn't mean you didn't run a great race. Doesn't mean you didn't just PR by a ton. Doesn't mean you're one of the fastest kids ever in the state of Michigan. It just means that this kid over here was faster that day. And like, that's hard. That's a hard pill to swallow for a lot of kids, I think, because so many sports are like zero sum, right? Like you're on offense, I'm on defense, and I'm trying to stop you, but there's nothing I can do to stop you at all. So yeah, it's that's tough when you have a great day and still don't win.
Yep.
I think it's a good life lesson though too, right?
Yeah,
Sports are beautiful like that.
it's for me, like we haven't won state championship yet, but like after we won our first conference championship with the boys 2 years ago, like I felt a ton of like self-inflicted pressure last year, and it made me like sick. And like this year I'm like, okay, we've done it 2 years in a row, great, but all I can do is like make sure these kids are ready. That's all we can do. And I can't, as long as I do my best job doing that and they do their best job here, like that's cards are on the table. That's it.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, out of all that and out of 21 years of coaching experience, give us your most important lesson you've learned or most important lessons. What do you carry with you?
I mean, I actually think that what we just talked about is it.
Okay.
I think like that took me a long time to figure out that, like, you know, you can have a great day and still lose. You can have like a mediocre day and still win sometimes, depending on who you're up against. And there's very little that we actually have any amount of control over. And so I remind myself of this constantly as a coach, as much as I remind our kids of it. But like, we got to figure out what those things are. We got to go all in on those, and we have to be willing to accept whatever outcome comes our way, because if we know that we handled our business the way that we intended to, and we did everything that we could, that, you know, we can be okay with any outcome. Like I tell our kids like that all the time, like we can accept any outcome as long as we see great effort, you know. The only time I have a hard time accepting an outcome is when it's a result of poor effort. And so as much as, like I said, the conference thing kind of sticks in my craw a little bit, because on paper we should have won that meet by 1,000. We were going to score points, you know, that didn't even exist. We were going to win by 1,000. But like, but you really, like, a couple kids had a bad day, but like, was it because they were there dinking around? No, like they went out and they did the best they could. And I believe that, you know, wasn't anybody's fault. Just wasn't in the cards that day, you know. And one day it will be.
Yep. Very cool.
Sorry, I wish my lesson that I wasn't something that I had already said, but it, like,
that's
it's such a core tenet of everything that we preach. And I think it's because, like, I've learned that it's so important over the years.
That's what's stuck in my head over the past year is like, control the things you can control is such a cliche, but it's so true.
It is.
It's so true though. It's another thing Tony says is burn the boats, go on a mission, surrender the results.
Yeah, he stole that from somebody else though.
Burn the boats is a common one. That's just a Viking thing, like land on the shore, burn the boats, and go pillage, right? But so
my dog wants back in.
All right.
Okay.
Awkward silence.
Filling it with nonsense.
The other thing I would say is, and I think I would say this is really kind of come from my relationship with Tony too. But like, but looking back, every coach that I've worked with who I thought was a really good coach already understood this, and it just took me a while to learn it. And now looking back, I see that they already knew, and that's that. If you're not coaching from a place of love and positivity and joy, that ain't it. You know, like these kids choose to spend their afternoons with us.
Yep.
They choose to spend their Saturdays with us, and they can very easily make a different choice. And as soon as they dread coming to practice, or as soon as they dread interacting with that coach or whatever, like they're going to make a different choice.
Yep.
They're not going to continue. And every kid who played high school sports remembers that experience, whether it was good or bad. And hopefully in our program, when our kids leave here, they'll look back and say, we had fun. We had a good experience at Kalamazoo Central, because nobody wants to be that pissed off, angry, gruff coach, who's like ragging on kids all the time. But there are coaches like that. And, just because we coach from love and positivity and joy doesn't mean that we can't still challenge kids, and that we can't still be hard on kids, and we can't still expect a lot from them. But I believe that, I knew that my coaches cared about me. And I believe every coach that I admire that I've worked with, they were like that.
That's the goal.
That's the goal.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Colin, do you have any other questions before I ask? I got one more, but I think it's going to take a turn with where this is going.
Okay. No, I'm good.
Okay. All right. So if you could make a change to the MHSAA, what do you want to see changed?
That's a good question. It's a hard question. I'm going to start by saying I'm thrilled about the change that we did make this year.
Yep.
Yep.
And the ability to qualify early for state finals.
Oh, you mean the standards aren't too hard?
I don't think so, no. And I've definitely had conversations about this over the years. Like, at this point, every freaking meet you go to has FAT. So why are we not doing this?
Right.
I think that was a really smart decision on the MHSAA's part to be like, yeah, if you're running at a invitational with FAT and all the other rules that they put in place, like, why shouldn't you? And I think it's going to give more kids the opportunity, and it's going to ensure that the best kids are there. Right. Because we've all had those scenarios where you got a kid who should qualify, and they have a bad day that day, or she falls on a hurdle, or she falls starts or whatever. So we want to make sure that type of stuff doesn't happen. I think I would like to see the MHSAA embrace indoor track and field more.
Yes.
And I don't even mean that. I don't even say that because like I want to do more indoor track. I don't, but I want to be able to do exactly as much as I want to do,
and not
without worrying about what rules I'm violating. And I've steered clear of attending outdoor meets up until this year. I've not gone to it. Or did I say outdoor? Indoor. I've steered clear of attending indoor meets every year until this year, because of those, like, you can have a club or you can't have a club, and you can only have this many athletes, but you can't coach them, and you have to stay in the stands. It's like, I'm not doing that. Like, so I think that a lot of headaches would be alleviated if the MHSAA would more fully embrace indoor and make it an official thing.
It's just better for the kids. Like distance runners, like keeping distance runners running is the healthiest thing for them, period. Right. So like, I
have to agree with you, because I don't know. Enough about distance running to weigh in on that.
I think keeping the or sprinters, like if you're a track first kid, like the easiest way to stay healthy is to stay active.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. And I've already thought about, like, if they do make that change, what is my approach going to be, and what is my pitch going to be? But to sort of counter your point a little bit, I think I'm going to tell kids not, like, if you've always played a winter sport, I want you to go do that.
Right. Yeah, I
Mhm.
agree with that.
Like,
Absolutely.
I don't
Yep.
want you to stop playing basketball to come do
Correct.
indoor track. I don't want you to stop wrestling to come do winter track. Like, I want you to go be on the basketball team, volleyball's in the fall. I guess it's all basketball in the winter. I want you to go be on the basketball team. I want you to go wrestle. I want you to go swim if that's what you
Right.
do in the wintertime. And that probably means that we will.
I don't think I want a 200 kid team for 6 months. I think I might go crazy. I think I might go crazy.
No, and I preach against single sport specialization all the time with other sports. It drives me crazy. The kids that play soccer all year, or the girls that play volleyball all year, I don't think it's good for kids. I don't think it's good for their bodies. I don't think it makes well-rounded athletes. And so I don't want kids to be like, well, I'm cross country, and then I'm indoor track, and then I'm outdoor track, and then I'm AAU track all summer. And I think it's probably different for distance runners, but I
It's a little different, but yeah.
I don't want kids who are like sprinting from like Thanksgiving through, if they do AAU in the summer, like from Thanksgiving until like Labor Day,
until football starts.
I don't want that. So we will probably have a very small, if and when this ever happens, we'll have a small indoor team. We will not win anything, and that will be okay.
I think you'll still win some stuff. I'm pretty sure. My goal would be keep the ball rolling, keep the kids healthy. Yep. That would be the goal. Everything else is just cake.
Yeah. The trick for me will be figuring out how to convey that I don't actually care about indoor track without the kids thinking that means that I don't care about track.
Right. Yeah, that's tricky. That's tricky.
Yeah. Because for me, outdoor is the game. I mean, that's the thing that matters. So
yeah,
anyway.
everything we do indoors is to make sure our outdoor team is ready.
And I don't think, like, I know there's been talk that this might happen, and it may in the next couple of years. And I actually don't think that it will ever get to that point where people really look at it as on par with outdoor. Because when I was in Illinois, indoor track was an IHSA sanctioned sport. We didn't have a ton of kids do it. Not nearly as many as we had in outdoor for those very reasons. They were playing basketball, they were doing whatever. And there was a state meet, kind of. It was called the Illinois Top Times meet. It wasn't called the state meet, but like, you knew, like, yeah, okay, that's cool. You won the 60 at the IHSA Top Times meet, but we also know that the 3 fastest kids in the state play basketball for their school. So, we'll see you in the 100 in June. Yeah.
I don't think much will change except the colors of the jerseys. I think you'd see the clubs turn into the team colors that we know they are, and that's about the only thing that's going to change.
Yeah.
So,
I would also like to see a 2-day state meet.
Yes.
Yeah. I would like to see a 2-day state meet, with qualifying rounds for everything except the 2 mile.
Even the mile?
Yep.
Okay. That's
I'm only saying this because my only experience with a 2-door state meet, I'm describing Illinois' meet right now. That was how they did it. Every single event had a qualifying round except for the 2 mile. They ran the slow heat of the 2 mile in the morning on the second day. Then they ran the fast heat of the 2 mile, at its normal spot in the the meet. But what it allowed to happen, doing it that way, having a 2-day meet, and I should also mention that it's not co-ed in Illinois. Like the boys and girls are very separate. So we never had a meet that was that the boys team and the girls team attended together. So this is a long answer about two-day state meets, but so that means that the girls state meet and the boys state meet were separate. They were on back-to-back weekends. So technically the girls season started like a week before the boys and ended a week before the boys.
Okay.
And so there's only 3 divisions in Illinois, 1A, 2A, and 3A, 3A being the largest. And so they would run like on Thursday, they would run like 1A and 2A prelims. And then on Friday, they would run 3A prelims. And then on Saturday, they would have all 3 divisions at the same location, all finals. So you got a chance to see those fast kids in other divisions that you don't get a chance to see otherwise. And that was so much fun to sit in the stands and know that I'm going to see all of the best kids in the state, not just the ones that are good in Division I or whatever. We were a small school division, so it was super exciting for me to be like, we're this little bitty school, but I'm getting to see like those
coach your division and also be a fan for the big stuff.
That was a blast. And then you get back-to-back weekends of state meet. So like it's like pretty exciting stuff. And it was hosted at Eastern Illinois University, and the whole thing was like a festival for 3 days. And it's an absolute blast. So I think that would be really cool to have a 2-day state meet, and also to consider a format where instead of having all of our divisions spread out through the greater Grand Rapids area, and then the UP up there being like, hey, don't forget we have kids up here too. Maybe we have a neutral site state finals where all the best kids from all divisions show up.
Yep. That'd be sweet.
Yeah.
That would be sweet.
Guys, I can keep talking. I'm having a blast. So if you have more stuff you want to
make this we'll visit this again, because
yes,
I think we're about at our limit. So
all right.
We'll have you on again sometime soon.
Yeah, that'd be a blast. I love talking shop, guys.
Yes.
And we'll see you soon.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Have fun Monday.
Yeah.
Hey, how many kids are you gonna have?
I believe we have 105 boys and 94 girls.
Wow.
Guys have been around there for the past 4 years. This is the most girls we'll ever have had out, which is going to be friggin' sweet.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, you guys are going to be bigger than
us. How about you?
I think we're probably going to end up around 160 all in, and I think that's probably going to be about 100 boys and about 60 girls. But it's hard to say because
we'll bleed like 15 or so, so.
Yeah, and like for us, historically speaking, about half the kids who sign up show up, but we have 340 kids signed up right now. So maybe, who knows? Maybe this is going to be the year where they all decide to come out. Every year, I'm like, wow, look at all these kids who are signed up for track. I hope they don't all come out.
Yeah. Have you? Yeah. There's another conversation hiding right there, but so yeah. Okay. Thanks for coming, man. This was sweet.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Mitten Athletics Live.
See ya.
See ya.
See ya.